Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Louise Hobart begins now.
Good evening. Parts of the state's north and northwest remain on high alert tonight as heavy rainfall soaks the region. Today, leading to flash flooding and a dramatic rescue. The hardest hit areas so far are Railton and its surrounds and Laina to Latrobe, where evacuation notices are currently in place. Further south, a number of watch and act notices are in effect for the Meander region and the North Esk River. The SES is warning Tasmanians to remain vigilant tonight, with 4 evacuation centres now open for those seeking shelter. As rain continues to fall, the Mersey River has already broken its banks. McKenna Bailey begins tonight's coverage.
Waking to the worrying words, prepare to evacuate. Railton residents the first to brace for the worst as relentless rain and flooding flows through the northwest.
There have been a number of places which have recorded 24-hour rainfall records for October, so it's a very significant event.
Right now, our focus is only on the protection of human life, to do our best to protect property and critical infrastructure. Locals
leaping into action, sandbagging properties and businesses this morning. One road into Sheffield shut, with the town of Latrobe on edge.
People are feeling a little bit anxious.
My message is very simple for our community, that is, be aware and prepare.
Watching and waiting, Latrobe residents nervously observing the Mersey River rise, threatening their homes and safety. An eerily familiar feeling, the conditions already on par with the 2016 floods.
Got an emergency box ready to go, just with our birth certificates. There's sandbags all down the main street from last night.
There's been over 700 calls to the police radio room already today.
Despite the warnings, calls for common sense remain.
A small number of people being very dangerous and driving far too fast for the conditions and even exceeding the posted speed limit.
The advice:
don't be complacent and think that the rain event's finished. It hasn't. We're only about halfway through it.
Evacuation centres also opening today in Latrobe, Railton, Deloraine and Ulverston.
If you need help, ask for it. Don't try and do it alone, because we're all here to help each other.
While the Spirit of Tasmania was also washed out, cancelling sailings as the Port of Devonport comes to a standstill, closed due to the risk of flooding. As the weather event continues to unfold, locals in impacted areas are urged to keep up to date on the Tas Alerts website. McKenna Bailey, 7 Tasmania News.
And McKenna Bailey joins us live now from Latrobe. Good evening, McKenna. What's the situation looking like there right now?
Lou, the rain has been relentless here today and locals are understandably anxious. The Mersey behind me continues to rise, breaking its banks a short time ago and is expected to peak later tonight. An evacuate now warning has been issued for Laina to Latrobe, and the advice to residents is to keep across the Tas Alert webpage for the latest information. The evacuation centre at Latrobe Memorial Hall on Gilbert Street will remain open for anyone in need of assistance. Lou.
All right, it's certainly a very anxious time. Thanks for that, McKenna. Meanwhile, 6 people have been rescued after being stranded on a property by quickly rising floodwaters at Liffey. It comes as residents in Launceston prepare for the worst of the flooding.
A harrowing situation. 6 people stranded in raging floodwaters at Liffey. Emergency services called, including surf life-saving water rescue crews from Hobart.
We arrived on scene to a paddock that was rapidly going underwater, the banks of the river sort of coming over from water encroaching onto that area.
3 children among those rescued, along with 7 pets. These buses, their home. They were all rescued to safety by the crews.
While the water was at that level, it was manageable with the equipment that we used without having to use other equipment or deploy other assets.
A few of their animals as well were taken to safety as the waters are rising, using Tasmania Police Search and Rescue and also the Surf Lifesaving Tasmania Swiftwater Rescue capability.
Rescue crews say both groups were lucky to be rescued today. Any later, the buses would have been submerged. and more calls are expected over the next few days as the weather system continues.
Tonight, as they're heading home or they're thinking about driving anywhere, they're doing so with caution, and if they don't need to go anywhere, they'd stay home.
The city of Launceston getting ready for the deluge by closing non-essential flood levees in the city. The Bureau of Meteorology expecting conditions to worsen tomorrow.
We're expecting rainfall rates to ramp up again later this afternoon and into this evening as a secondary low pressure system moves down past Tasmania.
It will change the river flows. There will be a lag as areas flood. Those areas have been identified. They'll be updated on the TasAlert website.
Mark Zita, 7 Tasmania News.
Turning to the day's other news now, and a stop work order has been issued at the Bridgewater Bridge site after Aboriginal artefacts were found. The Tasmanian Aboriginal Centre says early testing uncovered some Aboriginal relics on the site and the area should have been examined further.
If that had happened, we would be made aware of this heritage site and plans could have been made to avoid any destruction. It's a classic example of how Aboriginal heritage is given no respect.
One of the heritage permit conditions is to look out for artefacts, and if they're identified, then to do exactly what's occurring right now.
The contractor is working with the Aboriginal community to find potential solutions. Advocates say Tasmanians being managed by the public trustee and the public guardian should be allowed to tell their stories. Currently, they're gagged from doing so, while the state's administration and guardianship system is being reformed.
For years, Sally's parent had their life controlled by the public trustee, put in an aged care home with only a small weekly allowance.
Lost their human rights. And their freedom, basically. Anything they needed, they had to go by a public trustee.
Sally is a fake name. We can't identify either of them. Tasmanians on guardianship and administrative orders are gagged.
They've been hogtied, so they can't determine their life. And then what happens is they can't even speak about their experience.
Around 30 Tasmanians face a guardianship or administration tribunal every week. It's often without legal representation, and most are approved. Advocacy Tasmania is calling for gag orders placed on them to be removed.
People can't speak out, and when you don't have that transparency, there's no accountability.
A review of Tasmania's public trustee last year found it had genuinely misunderstood its role for decades. Advocacy Tasmania says it's only because some stories were told that change is underway.
If you can't get those messages out, those in power will continue unfettered to basically keep the status quo, hide it.
The state government is reviewing Tasmania's guardianship and administration system with broad changes on the way. However, a recently released draft bill doesn't appear to remove gag orders. The Attorney-General said in a statement the framework is designed to ensure vulnerable people have their privacy protected. Those affected say the move would be crucial to help reform the system.
The more publicity, then the more the public know about it, and maybe that would make a change in the attitude of people like the guardians and administrators.
Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
Hobart rental prices remained steady last quarter, according to Domain's rent report. However, Labor says the 9% increase over the past year is evidence the Rental Tenancy Act needs reviewing.
It would allow government to look at the entire market as a whole and to look at what's working now, what isn't working now, what worked in the past that needs to change.
In respect of housing more generally, we're making significant investments, and importantly, we're increasing our support through private rental incentive scheme so that we can have a greater stock of housing available to people.
According to the report, renting in Hobart is more expensive than Melbourne, Adelaide and Perth. Tasmania Police is asking for the public's help over a firearms incident at Waverley last night. Officers were called to the Yolla Street residence just before 9 o'clock. They say offenders fired 3 rounds at the house, with 2 of them going through windows of occupied rooms. They're also looking for a white single cab flat tray utility, which police believe was in the area at the time. Anyone with information is urged to contact Crime Stoppers. Tasmanian children living with hearing loss will soon be able to access world-leading services close to home. The Shepherd Centre is preparing to open a dedicated space here for the first time, meaning families will no longer be forced to travel interstate for support.
Battling a significant speech delay in her early years, little Amelet Hoax has overcome significant challenges to hear again.
We always focus on the positive side. And I always tell her that that's her superpower.
An NDIS-backed service is helping her achieve milestones like never before.
We started our journey with the Shepherd Centre back in February, and since then Amila's speech and language skills developed significantly.
More children are set to benefit from specialist intervention at the Shepherd Centre as it prepares to roll out its first Tasmanian home.
The children that we're working with are all diagnosed with hearing loss of varying kinds and severities.
Prior to the services, the centre's setting up, it was a fly-in, fly-out operation.
Helping to fill a crucial gap while creating new jobs for locals.
This is the first time we're able to really offer that truly specialised approach with therapists and counsellors and audiologists that specialise in paediatric hearing loss in Tasmania.
Demand for the service has grown significantly over the last 6 months, with 39 families across the state now accessing the vital support to help remove barriers for their children.
In the beginning of the year, we were working with 17 families. Right now it's 39, which is a really large growth in such a niche area.
The new facility will be up and running by the new year. Grace Evans, 7 Tasmania News.
Launceston workers have been back paid more than $120,000 following investigations into employers in the city food precincts. The Fair Work Ombudsman recovered the wages, with 77% of the businesses found to be breaching workplace laws.
We hone in on areas that are highest risk. A large area of that is fast food restaurants and cafes.
A history of non-compliance led to the sites being investigated. Recapping our top story now, and parts of Tasmania are underwater as major flooding creeps across much of the state, with those between Laina and Latrobe told to evacuate. Just moments ago, another evacuate now warning was issued for the Meander River. Staggering amounts of rain have fallen and more is on the way. The Weather Bureau predicts more than 300 mils will have been recorded in parts of the state by day's end. Damaging winds and dangerous surf conditions are also lashing the state.
We're expecting rainfall rates to ramp up again later this afternoon and into this evening as a secondary low pressure system moves down past Tasmania, increases the winds and hence increases the rate of rainfall into the already saturated catchments.
Major flood warnings are in place for the Mersey and Macquarie rivers. Emergency warnings have residents around Railton on standby to leave their homes, along with those near the Mersey River, which has already broken its banks. A physiotherapy program that started in Denmark has made its way into the Royal Hobart Hospital. The 6-week course, a life-changing solution for patients who don't immediately qualify for joint replacement surgery.
Struck by a car while crossing the road, Michelle Rogers' life came to an abrupt stop.
The hip pain had reached the point of being almost debilitating.
At just 50 years old, Michelle was too young for a hip replacement. Surgeons saying it would be an entire decade before booking her in.
Laying down was uncomfortable, sitting was uncomfortable, standing was uncomfortable. Everything kind of progressively snowballed.
The Royal Hobart Hospital coming to her aid with a physiotherapy pilot program.
Hopefully by getting your muscles nice and strong and giving you the correct alignment, it's going to help offload those joints a little bit and give you a bit more mobility.
Specialists taking patients through 6 weeks worth of life-changing exercises.
I am now off the list, hardly any painkillers, I don't even remember the last time I got the heat pack out.
This program is an example of the contributions made by around 3,500 allied health workers currently with the department. Their hard work formally recognised tomorrow as part of Allied Healthcare Professionals Day.
Think about psychology, pharmacy, social work, occupational therapists, audiologists, orthotics, prosthetics, podiatrists. Yeah, there's a very wide range of allied health professions that we all use.
Staff will be showered with awards and treats tomorrow as a small token of appreciation. Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News. A high-speed crash survivor living with a brain injury for the past 25 years is today being honoured at the International Rotary Recognition presentation. Alf Archer receiving the Paul Harris Fellow for his contributions to the Rotary Youth Driver Awareness Program.
This gives me the pleasure if I can change one kid's life, so worthwhile.
He's trying to persuade the children, educate them so they don't make the same mistake he did.
Alf inspiring more than 50,000 Year 10 students who have participated in the RYDA program since 2006.
Good evening. 18 in Hobart today, Launceston 16, 13 in Burnie, Devonport 14. 19 was the state's top across Ouse and Bushy Park, Lowhead and Smithton 14 and 10 in Lyowini. On the close-up shows a thick and uniform cloud band covering all of Tasmania and surrounding waters. Further out, a frontal band can be seen to the south of WA. Tomorrow, a cold front lies to the east of Tasmania with a trough to the west. Northeasterly winds 30 to 40 knots tomorrow, swells up to 4 metres in the west and south and up to 3 metres in the north. A severe weather warning is current for intense rainfall and damaging winds for the Furneaux Islands, northeast, northwest, central north and east coast districts. A gale warning for Bank Strait, Franklin Sound, Flinders Island and the east coast. Strong wind warnings for Frederick, Henry Bay, Norfolk Bay, the west coast and central north coast. And major flood warnings for the Macquarie, Meander and Mersey rivers, moderate flood warnings for the Forth, North Esk and South Esk rivers, and a flood watch warning for the North and Jordan catchments. A road weather alert is current for the Northwest, Central Plateau, Midlands and East Coast forecast districts, as well as a sheep graziers weather alert. Tomorrow's forecast now, Hobart and Campania 17, showers in Huonville. In the north, a shower or two in Launceston, showers across Devonport and Georgetown. Burnie tomorrow, showers, 16 across Strahan and Wynyard. 17 about St Helens and Swansea and showers easing at Port Arthur. The UV forecast is high 6s across the state. Looking ahead to the 3-day forecast now, Saturday showers about the west and far south extending to most districts. Sunday light morning showers about the northeast and Monday light showers about the west and south extending to central areas in the afternoon. Capital cities 22 and sunny in Perth tomorrow, Melbourne showers and 28 in Brisbane. And currently Hobart rain and 16, Launceston 15 and Devonport rain and 14. That's all for weather tonight, Lou.
All right, thanks for that, Jackie. And before we leave you tonight, just a reminder that there's an evacuate now warning issued for nearby communities on the Meander and Mersey rivers. To keep up to date with the weather situation in your area, the latest information is available from the Tas Alert website. And that's all your news for now. I'll be back later on with updates. For now, thanks for joining us and stay safe. Good night.